Remember creationist Matt Powell? He's the guy who recently said evolution is inherently racist because it teaches that, and I quote, we evolved from African Americans, but now there are other Americans, and that's pretty mean to the African Americans who are still alive today. And then he dropped the mic. That one's gotta be in the Online Creationist Hall of Fame, I swear. Anyway, it turns out that in the past month or so, he has learned a lot about nothing. Absolutely nothing. Hasn't changed a bit. He is still trying to out-embarrass himself. And I know this because he just posted another argument attempting to disprove evolution using his patented toddler logic, or as creationists refer to it, PhD level thinking. Okay, see if you can make sense of this. Here is what he says after talking about how evolutionists always want to save endangered species.
According to evolution, species should be getting created all the time. New kinds of animals should be popping up, new families through natural selection. Well, we don't see that at all. In fact, we see animals going extinct. They're just proving that there were species in the past that are getting wiped out now that we'll never have again. Evolution will never invent these new species through natural selection.
Let me try to honestly and fairly summarize his argument. I think this is accurate based on what he said, and he would admit that. Evolutionists often say they want to save endangered species. That means there are species going extinct. But evolution says species are created all the time through natural selection, as opposed to creationism, which says everything that exists was created by God at some point in the past. Therefore, by trying to save the animals, people who accept evolution are basically admitting that evolution can't lead to new species, which is hypocrisy and proof that evolution isn't true. Checkmate, atheists, says the guy who doesn't understand chess. Where do we start? Let's start with the obvious bit. Yeah, we do want to save endangered species as much as we can. An estimated 99% of every species that has ever lived has gone extinct. And there are species going extinct right now, at a rate that is unfortunately accelerating. And you know what? We do know that new species are getting created all the time. But this is where Matt Powell really starts to go off the rails. Because first, it's not like new species are poofed into existence, fully formed out of nothing. That's creationism. Every living thing is evolving all the time. We are evolving right now, even if we don't notice it, and even if we're not bifurcating into new species right in front of you. That's the biggest thing. Living things don't just suddenly become a new species overnight. It takes a long time, and maybe a catastrophic event or two, like an asteroid or a mass extinction, or other pressures on species coming from different directions. Evolution is an ongoing process that relies on chance with genetic mutations and events outside of our control. It's slow and imperceptible at times, but we know it occurs because we can see snapshots of it in action. That's what fossils are. That's what our genomes confirm. We're not trying to save species because we secretly know evolution isn't going to create new ones. We're trying to save them, at least certain ones, for a variety of reasons. Some are purely aesthetic, because certain rhinos or pandas or elephants are these unique, fascinating, beautiful, complex creatures. And losing them due to human behavior like poaching would just be a self-inflicted wound on the world. Sometimes these endangered species are vital to an ecosystem, and losing them could begin a domino effect that impacts so many other living things. Lose one part of the chain and the whole system could collapse. There is a delicate balance in nature, and messing with one thing may have huge ripple effects that we can't entirely predict. It's part of the reason climate change is so devastating, because the consequences are so wide-ranging. Also, every living thing has a unique genetic identity that could be useful for reasons we can't quite fathom just yet. I mean, what if some endangered species has developed genes that make them immune to certain diseases? We may want to harness that information, but if they're gone for good, we could miss out on all that potential knowledge that was shaped and developed over millions and millions of years. You can't make up for a lost species overnight, or even in our lifetimes. Quick tangent. There is a famous thought experiment in the world of evolution. I think Stephen Jay Gould is the one who really popularized it, and it goes like this. If we could start life over, rewind the tape of evolution, would we evolve the same way? I mean, certain traits, like sight, would undoubtedly pop up again because of how important it is. So many different species have eyes in some form that it seems like those would emerge again. Same with flight, since so many species are able to do it. But humans, like us, looking and sounding like we do right now? Probably not. I mean, almost certainly not. So many things had to happen for our species to evolve as we did, and there's virtually no chance all those ingredients would come together the same way again. That's why it's useful to protect endangered species. If certain species went away permanently, we will not live to see those species come back. Which is why I would argue we have a moral obligation, in addition to a selfish scientific one, to protect them as much as we can within our power. Protecting endangered species is not some contradiction to our understanding of evolution. It's an attempt to preserve our world as best we can before it disappears right in front of us. If the Asian elephant goes extinct, we're not getting a new one next year. We'll get other species, because we're always getting other species, but we're not getting that one back. That's how extinction works. It's why the only places you find large dinosaurs are at a museum or in the movies. Powell doesn't understand that. So he makes up his own definition of how evolution works, in a way that no evolutionary biologist would ever accept, then doubles down on his own misunderstanding. And I think what bothers me most is that he presents himself as an expert, with that dramatic music playing in the background, and that definitive tone of voice, even though he's not even a student who could get a passing grade in a basic science class. And look, it is not a crime to not understand evolution. But if you don't understand it, while acting like you are a master of it, your ethics are broken. All this coming from a guy who worships a god who allegedly said, thou shalt not bear false witness. By the way, there is one other part of the video that's also ridiculous and features even more of Powell's unearned Christian cockiness. He tries to trash atheists for not having a perfectly defined purpose to their life because, we're not living to glorify his God. And then he does some weird creationist verbal jujitsu.
What they're admitting is that they're making up, or make-believing, a purpose for life. They don't think there actually is any purpose. And so they say, well, I'll just make up purpose. That's make-believe, folks. These people are make-believers.
Right. We're the make-believers, says the guy who thinks Adam and Eve were literally the first two humans alive, and that Noah actually rescued 2 of every living thing on his ark, and that snakes can talk. I mean, pardon me for accepting reality. Listen, Matt, I know you're watching this. I'm sure you'll make a response video to it, but hear me out, okay? Find some new friends. Find anyone who cares about you enough to stop you from embarrassing yourself. Or take some time off and actually learn about the subject you so desperately want to disprove. Guess what? There isn't just one book you should read. I've even heard of things called libraries that have a couple of books. Several, even. Because right now, you sound like an intro to physics student who insists that every astrophysicist is getting the universe all wrong. It's not that scientists get everything about science right, but non-scientists almost always get everything about science wrong. Or if nothing else, find some damn humility. Just admit you don't understand evolution like you think you do. When your mentor is Kent Hovind, you're not learning from the best. Or, at least run your scripts by someone who knows the topic before you etch your ignorance in stone. I mean, not me. I'm good. But I'm sure you can at least find a smart middle schooler somewhere. I know you deleted the video where you said evolution is racist because African Americans exist. And who knows, maybe you'll delete this one too. I still got a copy. But it doesn't change the fact that we are all laughing at you because you are not as smart as you think you are. And we're sad that no one in your life circle has the heart to tell you that. I'm worried about you. Get help. And do better.